So once you've found an article, it is important for you to download and organize it well on your laptop. This prevents you from wasting time constantly looking for that article again and again on Google or whichever search engine you've chosen to use. This is usually how a folder for one of my assignments would look like. Yes, there are 28 articles in total. I usually number my articles for a specific assignment or topic. So usually when you download an article, it's just downloaded or named in a random file name or with the researchers' names. So I usually organize my articles by numbering them as Article 1, Article 2, and so on. It is very easy for one to get lost if they don't code or rename their articles according to their best understanding. I do so by numbering them, like I said. You can then create a document or Excel sheet to write down the article number and the title of the research paper. This will then help you be like, okay, so this is the article I want to refer back to. So you open up your Excel sheet or your document and you say, okay, it was this article that I wanted to read, and it is article number 15. So you can just open up article number 15 instead of having to open every single article that you've downloaded to find that title. Okay, so this is definitely a good way of doing it, and that's how it's worked for me. And so far, so good. I think it helps me organize my work pretty well. I'm a pen and paper person, so I don't really create Excel sheets or documents. I usually write it down on a piece of paper or in my notebook, and I say Article 1 and the topic, and I also make my notes under that, so yeah. Reading a research paper is not like reading a storybook. That is the honest truth. You do not have to read the whole paper all the time. And also, you do not have to read the paper sequentially. Basically, you don't have to read introduction first, then the methodology second, then the results third. You do not have to read it in that format. Okay, and again, you do not have to read the whole paper all the time. In all the papers that I have read myself, I have to admit, or rather confess, that I don't think there is even one that I have read every single word in that document or that paper. Okay, so again, do not be overwhelmed by the idea that you have to read the whole paper word by word to really get an understanding of what it has to say. Okay, so again, and it's often not even necessary. So for most of us, this means understanding the topic area, okay, the methodology of the research, main findings the research has had, and the limitations. Once you've chosen a title that is relevant, the first step, very first step, and I say this is going to be very important for all of you, is to read the abstract. You should actually do this before you even download the paper, because often we think a research topic is relevant to us based on the title, but once we've read the abstract, it may not even be what we're looking for. The abstract is usually something that has, like I said, the summary of the main aim of the research, a brief of the methodology and the findings. And from our understanding of Bransford and Johnson's study on schemas, we know that having the context of something before learning it or trying to comprehend it is very helpful. The same applies to reading abstracts, and this is something that is mandatory to practice when reading research papers, or else you're just going to find yourself really lost. But at the same time, it is not enough to read only the abstract, okay? Yeah, no. If you are trying to write a paper, you will need to read more than just the abstract. If you just want a general idea, then that's okay to read the abstract. But usually it is better not to stick to only the abstract, because that is not enough in-depth information about that topic. Okay? So once you've read the abstract, reading the introduction is important. This gives you a theoretical background of the topic and also relevance of the research. I usually read the introduction twice. The first time I just read it as it is. The second time I read it, I highlight the main points that I find interesting or want to use in my own paper, or I want to use for my research proposal, or I want to write for an article. Whichever it is, I highlight the main points that I would think are relevant to me. Okay. I also make notes in a notebook. You can use your evidence banks as well to do so. Please don't ever not jot down notes. while reading a research paper, trust me, no matter how great you think your memory and comprehension is, it is highly unlikely that you'll open up a research paper a month later or even a week later and be like, oh yeah, I remember what this is all about. Yeah, so that is highly unlikely. So please make notes when you go through research papers. It is very important. And it just makes your life easier in the bigger picture. Okay? So once you've read the introduction, you could research or read the methodology. This may be a brief section in some papers, and in other papers, highly extensive. Read enough to get an understanding of the main methodology used, the sample experimental design, and what tools they use to collect data. Then leave the results section, which I usually do as well. Sometimes I go into it because I find statistics interesting to an extent. Um, but a lot of the times, the numbers and statistics and the graphs, they're all really confusing for one to understand. And I think that is a major turnoff for most readers of research papers. So I usually just go straight to discussions, okay? And the discussion is where the researcher explains the meaning of the numbers and statistics. What are those numbers suggesting? Okay, what are those statistics suggesting? Does it confirm their hypotheses? What does this say about the topic, limitations, and what are the main conclusions? So this is how you are to read a research paper. It will get better with time, and for terms that you don't understand, do look up the meaning before continuing to read, because it often determines whether you understand the whole paper as a whole. Okay? So your task for the rest of class now is to find 5 to 6 papers on the topic that you've chosen for your digital technology project. Create a folder in your hopefully already existing DP Psychology folder and organize them how you think it would be easy for you to access information. Like I said, I number my articles and write down the article number and the topic or the title of the research paper. That has helped me in the past. You might find your own way of doing it, but this is my recommendation for you. So once you've downloaded all the articles that you think are relevant to your topic, you can slowly start reading these papers one by one. Make notes on them as you do so. This will come in handy when you start writing your annotated bibliography. So as usual, understand the aim, the variables, the hypotheses that the researcher has made, the participants and the sampling, methodology and procedure, findings, limitations, and conclusions. This should be a way that you can organize your notes. And this is what has been the practice for the past year that we've been studying together. And I guess this will still be helpful for your project now and also for your EE. Okay? If you're having trouble accessing a full paper, please copy the title of the paper and the researcher's name and send it to me. I should be able to access the paper and send you a PDF document of it. Okay? Another clarification. So I spent yesterday going over the interviews that some of you have submitted. Some are still pending. So please do that as soon as possible, or else I will not be able to give you feedback. And that'll affect your whole process, to be honest. So please do that so I can give you feedback. But the bigger piece is that some of you have misunderstood the idea of interviews. Okay, in your papers you've written that the participants will read the questions and respond in the Word document, which is not the task. That is not what interviews are. Interviews are not questionnaires, okay? In interviews, you have to actually verbally ask the participant the question, and they will respond in real time. So if I was conducting an interview with you as my student, okay, I would call you up or I would speak to you in person, and I would ask you those questions. You will respond to them as I ask you those questions. This is not written. This is verbal. This is talk, okay? So since we're not in school and you cannot meet that person in person, you will do this over call, over Zoom or WeChat, and you need to ensure that you record that call. So there is evidence and you can go back to that interview when you're analyzing the results, okay? Which is also a part of this project. So please record the calls. And once you've conducted all 5 interviews and recorded each call, which I recommend you finish by Sunday because I will give you time on Monday to work on the results and listening to the interviews. Please send them to me, the recordings I mean, so I can get a hear of them as well and give you ideas and help you in the process. So yeah, so please do that and don't further confuse this. This is an interview, it has to be done in real time. Okay, it's not written on a document, it is not done through Microsoft Forms. You have to speak to that person, and that person has to speak to you, and you have to record it. Okay, ideally I would do 1 interview per day for the rest of this week, okay, so I don't feel overburdened. And I think that should be what you should try doing as well. And it shouldn't take more than 10-15 minutes for each interview, or so I would think. Okay, even 5 minutes for some, I'm guessing. So keep it to 5 to 10 minutes so that it makes it easier for you to analyze all 5 of them. Okay, so that is it for now. Please start working on your research articles. And if you have things to change on your interview based on my feedback, please do that and give it to me so I can finalize and you can start conducting your interviews. And if you haven't written your interviews at all and submitted it at all, please do so by tonight, or else I will not be able to give you feedback. Okay? All right.